Well, 6 world powers have agreed to resume talks with Iran over its nuclear program. EU Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton says she's replied to an offer from Iran on behalf of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. The date and venue for the talks still need to be agreed on.
On behalf of China, France, Germany, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom and the United States of America, I have offered to resume talks with Iran. We hope that we will be able to now pursue with Iran constructive engagement with the purpose of addressing the international community's concerns about the nuclear program.
Well, joining us from Palo Alto in California is Kaveh Afrasiabi. He's a political scientist and a former advisor to Iran's nuclear program. Thanks very much for joining us. What do you see coming out of this resumption of talks, which have gone on and off before the last round, ending in failure last January?
Well, that's an interesting question because Russia has made a very specific step-by-step proposal that Iran has embraced, and yet U.S. and some other Western powers have given it a rather cold shoulder. And it would be interesting to see if the U.S. and France and England in particular, as well as Germany, would agree to have the Russian proposal as the framework for the coming talks, because that proposal by the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov calls for a stage-by-stage removal of the Iran sanctions in return for Iran's cooperation with the IAEA and removal of the issues of concern and the so-called outstanding issues. And as we know, Iran has another track of talk with the IAEA and has just agreed to allow the IAEA inspectors to go into the military base at Parchin, as well as the other offer for inspection of the suspected sites at Marivan. So these are goodwill gestures by Iran that should be taken under consideration by the other side.
Are those moves, concessions by Iran going to be enough to convince the international community that Iran's nuclear program is indeed peaceful?
Well, you know, there's a lot of disinformation on Iran that has also to be addressed. And Iran, you know, has an agreement with the IAEA, and the IAEA has called for Iran's compliance with the subsidiary agreement, and that's a contentious issue, as well as the additional protocol. So I think that if Iran agrees to abide by the subsidiary agreement and to resume the additional protocol, most, if not all, of the Western concerns about Iran's nuclear program will be removed.
And if it isn't enough, what more can Iran do to convince the world that it has a peaceful, that its nuclear program is peaceful?
Well, you know, to be honest with you, as a former advisor to the negotiation team when Iran agreed to suspend the enrichment program for over 2 years and to voluntarily implement the intrusive additional protocol, we've seen a lot of evidence of bad faith on the part of the Western representatives. And you know, it takes 2 to tango. The West has to give Iran security assurance, you know, a non-aggression pact with Iran would do well, and so forth. And you know, Iran's program is under the IAEA supervision. IAEA has its surveillance cameras at the Natanz enrichment facility and so on. And there is no evidence of diversion of declared nuclear material. So what else can Iran do? Iran, you know, operates under the safeguard agreement with the IAEA, and the IAEA is now calling on Iran to implement the intrusive additional protocol. That's one of the issues on the table. Let me add to that the fact that since the last round of talks in January 2011, Iran has made a lot of nuclear progress. Case in point, Iran is now producing the uranium metal for its medical reactor in Tehran. And that was one of the issues for nuclear fuel swap that became you know, part of the Tehran Declaration signed by Turkey and Brazil as well. And the U.S. initially, President Obama in particular, backed those negotiations and then reversed itself. So, you know, we need good faith negotiation on the part of the U.S. and the Western powers.
Okay. Thank you very much for your perspective. Kaveh Afrasiabi, political scientist and writer on Iran's nuclear program.